All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 4, BDS Hockey Pod. Tonight, we are actually multi-streaming. We're also streaming to Facebook Live. So if anybody happens to be watching on there, appreciate you. Appreciate you joining us again. And welcome back, Kyle, from your assignment abroad from the Abyss. Welcome back.
It's great to be back, guys. I was not in Finland, though. I had to work.
Tell that to your Finland fan club.
Yeah. and the fan club president.
Well, everybody have a good weekend. You guys see anything that stuck out this weekend, or?
I think I watched more football than hockey this weekend, but that's because I was feeling good about the Lions this weekend. So, I think I watched hockey Friday night. Watched a couple good games. I think I caught the tail end of the Rangers game, and that was probably about it for me on hockey this weekend.
Yeah, I was able to watch the Rangers have a couple of big back-to-back wins this weekend, kind of get back into the win column and get themselves looking right. But I was also watching a little football this weekend myself.
I went out to see Berkeley Catton play against the Winterhawks again. The guy is unbelievable, and the team played well. Beat our Winterhawks pretty badly. So
gotta catch.
How many podcasts get live scouting? Not that many, but we got Kyle.
Yeah, we got live scouts going out and checking out all the prospects. So
going all across the world to do it too.
Yeah, my Bills actually played pretty well this weekend, so I was happy with that. I didn't haven't watched too many football games recently, but that was a good win, so I was happy to see that. And then one thing that caught my eye today was Edmonton's been struggling the last 2 games back. It's like Jekyll and Hyde this year, but I noticed that they are changing up their first line, which kind of threw me because Ryan Nugent Hopkins and Connor and Zach Hyman, their goal expectancy has been number one. That line has been the number 1 goal expectancy line in the entire NHL. And they decided to change that up a little bit so that they could flip Evander Kane and Ryan Nugent Hopkins to hopefully be able to help Leon Draisaitl get off the schneid, because he's kind of been struggling lately. And that kind of frustrated me, because when you have one line that's been the best goal expectancy line in the entire NHL, just seems like you wouldn't want to mess that up. I don't know. That was just my thought.
Yeah, you see coaches do this a lot. Gerard Gallant used to do this with the Rangers last year, and it drove me up a wall. There's no reason to break up lines that are going well because you're trying to create more offense in lines that aren't doing well. I know I go back to the Rangers a lot, but a perfect example is that second line this year of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. There's no reason to break them up. They're playing really well, and the fact that they require the top defensive attention every time they play is only going to help these other lines eventually gel, figure it out, and gain momentum, and that's what's happened. So I've personally never been a huge fan of breaking up lines that are successful to help with other lines' success. Maybe he's the coach. Let's see if it works. You got a lot of scoring, a lot of playmakers on that team, but I don't know if I would have broke them up.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off your last point too. I mean, they have a bunch of star power on that team, but I'm all for shifting it up. Edmonton's lost 2 in a row. Might as well shift it up. Try to change up the looks. Try to get different opportunities for different people. Like you said, Draisaitl's struggling a little bit. Get him a little bit of help there. I think Connor can do it with with anyone. He'll create space on his own. So I think it's a good shift for them. They were riding hot for, what was it, 8 or 9 games, Ash?
Yeah, they won 8 in a row. So
yeah. So shift it up a little bit. They'll figure it out.
I wanted to, yeah. As long as we're good on that topic, I'm okay with switching up lines when things aren't going well. I agree there. I did want to bring attention to something that has been just scrolling across my social media lately, which was the Juuso Välimäki injury. and subsequent hospitalization on November 14th. He took a shot off the mouth from Yanni Hakanpää. Went to the Dallas hospital and was turned away. I guess they were dealing with more critical situations, and his need wasn't as high as the other people there. His wife was there to be able to help him, but the NHL doesn't get involved in that sort of thing. Once they learned that he had been turned away, the NHL stepped in. He was seen. He did get sewn up. Got some kind of jaw surgery. I just wanted to know what your guys' take on that information is. Do you think the NHL needs to change the system up, keeping the players safe after injury? Do we think it's good that they give them their privacy? How do you feel about that, Ash?
I can see both ways. So I don't really know that I feel strongly one way or the other, to be honest.
Yeah. I thought these teams had partnerships with hospitals. So that, as like to say, like, I know they were in Dallas, but like Dallas would have a partnership with whatever major hospital was located in the Dallas area, and help prioritize them when they're in those situations. So that story was a little weird to me when I had read it.
Yeah, but it almost humanizes the story a little bit too, because there are other things going on, and I know to the four of us, maybe sports are the most important thing in our lives, but for someone else who's going to the hospital, there could be more serious things than, getting hit in the face with a puck.
No, it's true. I totally get that. I don't know. Maybe I guess I just thought differently.
John,
I'm ready. Like they had like people at the hospital that were specifically for them in situations. I guess I just misinterpreted what was happening.
Right. Or, even there, someone on staff at the stadium too, to try to mitigate as much as you can before you send them off to the hospital. Right. Or
the Stars might have like a specific team doctor that works at the hospital who's just on call during all their games.
Right.
Yeah. I think every stadium for home games should have a combat medic there as well, especially in light of the situation that happened in England a couple of months ago. Adam Johnson, is that his name?
Yeah.
The NHLPA seemed to be pretty concerned with this event, and I wouldn't doubt that they're starting to make moves in order to get that additional level of safety in and around the stadium.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy you bring it up, because I know John's concluding thoughts last week were with Boone Jenner. Similar thing happened with him. Similar thing happened with Barclay Goodrow last week, and I think Philip Deneau took one to the face last Sunday as well. It's a high contact sport, high amount of injuries. I agree. I think there's probably maybe a little bit more attention to this.
We look back on those videos from the 70s of the guys not wearing helmets and think that looks so ridiculous we can't imagine it. I think that 20 years from now, that's going to be face masks. And they're going to look back on the 2000s and 2010s and be like, how did these guys not wear face masks?
Yeah. Well, the technology has changed so much in the sticks as well. Back then they were wooden sticks. They didn't flex. The puck was along the ice a lot more, and they were moving at much slower speeds than what we're seeing now. So I can only imagine that trajectory is going to go up on that side, and the level of safety is going to have to remain parallel to it. So
that's a good point. We've seen the goalie pads and the goalie equipment get safer and bigger and different over time. It's kind of crazy that the regular equipment hasn't necessarily kept up with that.
They're still wearing cups, though.
They're still wearing cups. They're protecting the most important.
Probably a good thing. Well, speaking of transitioning over time, the Ottawa Senators today, road schedule coming up the rest of the year. So definitely not very positive signs coming along for Ottawa in that regard. And I thought I wrote it down, but I forget the name of the what was the name of the intern? Luke, what was that?
Martin.
Jacques Martin.
Yeah.
Longtime coach there and that kind of thing. So, just interesting how they handled that situation. What did you guys think?
Well, first of all, I'll say I'm pretty glad that we didn't have a show before the season started, because the Ottawa Senators would have been my biggest miss coming into the season. I don't know if I expected them to be a playoff team. I mean, that Atlantic is loaded. I definitely didn't expect them to be last in the Atlantic. This is a team I thought was poised to take a huge step next season. And, I mean, they don't have the goaltending, and they've had some other guys underperforming. So it's been a little weird to see what's happened up in Ottawa this season. In terms of the firing, I don't necessarily disagree with the firing. I don't truly understand why they waited until after practice. It's a little weird. It's a little unconventional. I don't think it really makes a big difference in the large scheme of things. Just another kind of almost silly story to tell about the firing. But I mean, I think it was the right move. This is a team that was not expected to have 22 points at this point. I mean, this is a team that is, I mean, Stützle and Tkachuk and you know, all the other guys they got there. It's a surprise.
Yeah, no, John, I'm with you too. I know Ottawa. A lot of experts have them as kind of the dark horse. They weren't too far out of playoff contention last year. I think they fell like 6 points short, right behind the Panthers, who made it all the way to the Stanley Cup. So I think being out of playoff contention isn't too much a surprise, but being last in the Atlantic. I know they've only played 26 games, so I think their games played are a little bit less than everybody else. But man, they've been marred with controversy in Ottawa this year too. Most notably with Pierre Dorion, the old their previous GM. They let him go after the investigation on the Dadonov trade coming out of Vegas. So there's just not a lot of good coming out of the front office in Ottawa right now. So hopefully,
the gambling incident too. Who was
there was the gambling incident at the beginning of the year. But hopefully they get a little bit more stability with Martin. And I think more notably than Martin is who the assistant coach is going to be, which is Daniel Alfredson, who was the longtime captain for the Senators. So they're trying to go with maybe that ex-player mentality behind the bench. So definitely some interesting developments there.
Yeah, I think this Ottawa team has a lot of young talent, and their production has not been at the level that they want it to be. And I think young players respond really well to coaching changes, mainly because any player feels responsible for the firing of a coach, because it's their representation of his system on the ice that causes that. And I feel as though the young players, that really resonates with them a lot more. So we're hoping for better things out of Ottawa with this change, but we'll see.
Yeah. And it was interesting how they brought Martin in as a consultant prior, and he said he had no interest in coaching. And then sure enough, they make a change and name him the interim. So
yeah,
to me, that was interesting.
It was almost like they had backup plans just in case things didn't work out with Smith. But what's interesting, and I don't know if it's just kind of the sign of the times, or because you kind of see it across all the major sports. And this is the 5th head coach that was fired this year already. I mean, it's crazy, right? You had Columbus before the season even started with Mike Babcock and Pascal Vinskin taking over. That's a whole different situation. That wasn't performance based or anything like that. But you had the first one, which was Woodcroft in Edmonton, replaced by Knobloch. Edmonton's 9-5-1 since the coaching change. Fired off eight wins in a row, or was it 9? You can correct me. Was it 9?
It was 8.
It was 8. All right, so eight wins in a row. Minnesota follows suit. They bring on John Hines, 6-2 since bringing John Hines in, and the last prior to the Smith news today was St. Louis. They're 2-0. They're 2-0 since bringing in a new coach. So I don't know if they're looking at those numbers and saying, we just need a change. We just need a change here, and something that's going to turn us around rapidly. Which it looks like across the league, it has had a positive impact on the players, and trying to develop a winning culture there.
Well, and you mentioned winning streaks, and can I just mention like how much of a curse that ever since we introduced the heat check series, every time a team gets to that fourth win, they end up losing. So I don't know if we have cursed them or what, but
they're having those conversations in the locker room, man.
And you know they're watching this, like they're.
But like the third or fourth time. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say over the weekend we had the Islanders, and I believe it was who was the other team that was on a 4-game or 2?
Was it Vegas? No, it wasn't Vegas.
I think it was.
Yeah,
it was Vegas Friday night.
On Friday.
Yeah, Vegas and the Islanders both on Friday night lost. But yeah, every time a team gets to that 4 wins, they just can't get the 5th one. So hopefully, eventually, we'll get another stab at the heat check. But
who's the next one? Nashville.
Nashville tomorrow night goes for their 5th one in a row. So we'll see if we can do a heat check.
I think I got that text, and I was like, "It's not going to happen now."
But speaking of, teams on a hot streak and teams rising up through the ranks, John has prepared his updated power rankings, week 4 of our power rankings here at the BDS Hockey Pod. And John, I'll let you take it away here as I pull up the graphic.
Awesome. Not a ton of change in my power rankings this week. Really one notable change in terms of who's in and who's out. I did pull the Panthers out this week, and I finally had to put the Colorado Avalanche back into my top 5. Well, not back in, I apologize. Into my top 5 for the first time this season. They had a big week. They went 3-1 this week. They took down Calgary. They took down Buffalo, and they took down San Jose. They did sprinkle in a loss to Winnipeg. But this is a team that's now 5th in the standings. They're climbing. They're getting better. And, with some of the struggles that Boston's been going through, I leapfrog them all the way into 4th. Pretty happy with that choice. I really think that they're here to stay. This has been a team that's been good for years. They're only a couple years removed from the Stanley Cup. They have some of the best talent in the league with McKinnon and McCarr. And I think that you're going to see a lot more of them in the top 5 over the next couple of weeks. I just mentioned Boston. I moved them down to my top 5 spot, to my number 5 spot this week. Boston is still a very good team. They're going to continue to be a very good team. But you cannot deny the fact that they're taking hits. They put Coyle and Zacha both on the IR last week, and news came out today that they're lending Matt Petra out to Team Canada for the World Juniors. So their depth is just taking a hit. And Petra wasn't having a great recent stretch, but at the end of the day, you just have to put in kind of filler players for them now. And depth was already a problem for the Bruins to begin with. So they haven't won as many games as of recently. I still think that between Swayman and the defense, they should be fine. But they've definitely taken a little bit of a hit to their depth. Rounding out the top 3, my top 3 stayed exactly the same as Vegas, Vancouver, and the Rangers. I did actually debate midway through the week moving the Rangers down a little bit, but they rebounded and had a really nice weekend. Not only beating Anaheim and Boston, but managing to do it in a way of not allowing many goals in both stretches. Only allowed 1 goal in both games. Quick keeps his undefeated in a regulation streak. Shesterkin looked good against Boston. So they stick in my number 3 spot. Vancouver sticks in my number 2 spot. They took points in every game this week, beating the Lightning, beating Florida, losing in the shootouts in Minnesota, and then beating Chicago. That's a 7 out of 8 point week for the Vancouver team that just keeps rolling with that top star power. And then the Vegas Golden Knights stayed in my top once again. They went, I believe it was 2-1 this week. They beat Calgary, they beat Ottawa, and they lost to Buffalo. This is just a team that until they show me something that proves they should be taken out of the number 1 spot, I'm leaving them there. They're still the team to beat. They're the reigning Cup champs. They're winning games like crazy. I believe they lead the league in points currently. So Vegas has a stranglehold in that number 1 spot for me. But I think Vancouver's breathing down their neck. I'm excited. I hope those two have a matchup coming up soon.
We'll have to check the schedule. John, why'd you take the Panthers out this week?
A lot of my top 5 is more about who deserves to be in rather than who deserves to be taken out. And for me, I just felt like I wasn't ready to take the Bruins out yet. First of all, the Knights, the Rangers, and the Canucks weren't going anywhere. I wasn't ready to take the Bruins out yet, and I felt like it was time to really put the Avalanche in. So the Panthers were just my casualty.
Okay. Cool.
I'm a positive thinker. I think about who deserves to be there, not who deserves to
who deserves to be out. Yeah.
What do you guys got? Any differences? I see. I'm a little interested. I got to go. I want to go to Luke next, if you don't mind. I'm a little interested by actually, Ash, you have it too. The Jets in the top 5.
Yeah.
The Jets. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I know. Last week on the cast, I had the Avs at 5, and I had Jets at 5B. So I think the Jets played really well this week. They beat the Avs on I think it was Saturday night. I think they deserve to be in the top 5. 11th in the league in goals for per game, 6th in the league in goals against average, and they've won 6 out of the last 7 games. They're sitting in second in the Central right now, but I think Colorado has a game in hand against them. I think really for them, the only issues that they're running into is on the special teams. I think it's 75% on the penalty kill right now, and I think 17% on the power play. I know they were having struggles at the beginning of the year, and I think there's been a lot of improvement on the power play as well. So that's why I have them at 5. And 1 through 4, no changes. I think just the switch between the Canucks and the Bruins. I'll just kind of second what John's saying. I mean, there's a lot of star power. There's a lot going on in Vancouver. I know. I started week 1 of the power rankings with Vancouver at 5, so they've just been kind of creeping up. They've been playing well, and Knights and Rangers they could flip flop. They're both top of the table right now. They're both playing really good hockey right now.
Yeah, I was kind of like you in that the Jets have been surging recently, and they absolutely dominated the Avs on Saturday. That 6-2 win, I mean, they just really put it to them. So I felt like they had to be in the top 5. The Canucks also came into my top 5 because they've been playing really well lately. They were another one of those teams that got on the 4-game win streak, and I started prepping for a heat check, and then they ended up dropping their 5th game. But I feel like both of those teams were deserving of being moved into the top 5. The top of the rankings, I never feel like moving to a team too much based on like one individual week. So the Rangers have stayed steady at the top of my power rankings. I don't like to overreact too much on one given week, but then they've also played really well this past week. So they've not moved out of since week 1. The Rangers have not moved out of my top spot. So there they are. What do you think, Kyle?
I still need to employ some learning to my algorithm for the power rankings. Mine's completely results driven, a little spreadsheet, and I think it needs some work, but it doesn't take in the recency effect that you guys have. The strength of schedule is mainly what it's built around. So I just think the Canucks have played a really weak schedule to this point, and the opponents that they've been able to beat, they've taken care of, but doesn't get them in for me. And the Stars haven't done poorly enough to take them out.
You got to win the games. You got to win the games.
Only be who you play.
It doesn't matter who you play. You have to win games. That's what it's about.
I'll tell you one team that came pretty close to cracking my top 5, which would have been the first time they cracked anyone's top 5 since we started doing these. Not there yet. I almost put the Toronto Maple Leafs in my top 5 this week.
Oh yeah,
I actually thought about them as well.
Yeah,
I think they're on the rise. They had an interesting start to the season, but they seem to be getting it together now. But they did lose a couple overtime games this past week. Big week coming up for Toronto that could put them in my top 5. I know that's what all the players in the locker room have been talking about, trying to get into John's top 5 this week. But they got a game against the Rangers at home, and then 2 away games at Buffalo and Columbus. You see a 3-0 week from Toronto, you might see them crack my top 5 next week. We'll see.
Everybody's talking about the top 5 and the heat check. They're
waiting on bated breath.
Everybody's talking about in the locker room.
I'm picturing Austin Matthews just sitting in his locker being like, "How do I crack John's top 5?"
Yeah,
I have to add that Winnipeg cracked it into the top 5 without Kyle Connor.
Yeah.
I was thinking that too, man. They've been playing really well even without him.
Yeah. Well,
Ehlers has been unbelievable too.
We love a good member of the Kyle Club.
Soft spot in his heart.
But yeah, no, Ehlers has been playing really well. Josh Morris is one of the most underrated players in the league. Yeah. So I mean, they're a fun team to watch right now.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of warm feelings, we've got a Christmas themed edition of the buy or sell this week. So Luke wants to ask us in his series of teams, who would you award a candy cane or coal to in lieu of buy or sell this week? So take it away, Luke. Sure.
Yeah. I want y'all to reach into your stockings, tell me what these GMs should be getting based on how the teams perform so far. Give them a candy cane or some coal or, something in between, you get in your stocking, like toothpaste or, condoms that are the wrong size. Like, I don't know. What do you get in your stockings, So for this buy sell, we're going to focus on some GMs in their first year with teams. We'll start off with Kyle Dubas, who was with Toronto for last 5 seasons, started 2018 with them. When he started with Toronto, he was the second youngest GM ever in NHL history. I think he's 38 years old, so he's a young guy. One of the top minds in the league too. And you could see by his acquisitions this offseason, he is all for wheeling and dealing. One of the biggest things with him in Toronto was bringing John Tavares up north to a lot of the hatred of Islanders fans, but he brought John Tavares back to Toronto. And like I said, you could see with the key pickups this offseason, Carlson and Riley Smith were 2 big trades, and also the signing of Ryan Graves. I'll start with John here. Thoughts on Kyle Dubas's start in GM in Pittsburgh so far?
Another member of the Kyle Club out here. We love our conditions in this segment, so I don't know. Maybe I'll give Dubas like a burnt gingerbread man, something like that. I'm not prepared to give him a lump of coal, but I'm not giving him candy. I'm not giving him a candy cane either. Listen, this is how I feel about the Penguins acquisitions and the job that Dubas has done. I think everybody knows the Penguins need to rebuild, but Penguins ownership isn't ready to do that. So all things considered, Dubas did the best he could considering what he had to work with. Now, listen, if it was his idea to go after all these veterans and make another run, then maybe I'll switch that to a lump of coal. But I don't think he was given a lot of choice. They retained Mike Sullivan. They brought in a win now GM. They're not, I don't expect them to, but they're not getting rid of the Crosby, the Malkins, the Letangs that are toward the end of their career. So what else are you going to do at that point instead of try to bring in some other veterans and make one more run? It hasn't worked. And that's the reason that I'm not giving him any sort of candy cane in this situation. But I do think that at just the end of the day, with the way this Pittsburgh Penguin roster was assembled, he just didn't have a lot of choice. I think in a perfect world, they'd love to rebuild, but I just don't know how you do that. You're not trading away those franchise legends. But what I will say about this is I love Riley Smith. He hasn't played as well as, I'm sure they hoped he did. Erik Karlsson has underperformed. Can't really expect that out of either of those two guys. I don't blame that on Dubas. So yeah, my burnt gingerbread cookie for Kyle Dubas.
All right, from one Kyle to another. Kyle, what do you got? What do you got for Dubas?
Kyle Dubas, I'm gonna give him hand warmers. I'm gonna toss a couple of those hand warmers because they need to catch some heat at some point. I feel like they have such a veteran locker room. The Erik Karlsson pickup is good enough for them. Ash, what is it looking like for puck luck in Pittsburgh?
Well, it's actually let me pull this back up. Sorry, I was just there. I
feel like they're too talented to be.
It's weird because they're kind of in the middle for expected differential. Expected goals against, they are 9th in the NHL. Yep. Expected goals for, they are 4th, which actually surprised me.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm sticking with the hand warmers on that because they need to heat up a little bit.
Yeah, because actual goals for, they're 26. So that shows that they could be having a little bit of bad puck luck too.
Their power play is also horrific considering the guys they got on it.
Yeah,
I mean, you have some of the best offensive players in the league: Karlsson and Crosby and Letang and Gensel, and they were like 0 for 33 on the power play at one point.
Yeah.
Well, and I was just going to jump in and say that I would give them a lump of coal. And my reason, normally I follow along with like this puck luck and stuff, like you were mentioning, Kyle. But you have a team that's kind of aging, and it's always incumbent upon any general manager, regardless of the sport, if you have a team that's starting to age, and are they really having bad puck luck? If you've got an older team in this situation, so it's incumbent upon the general manager to temper expectations of ownership in these kind of situations, and to be able to maneuver your way in towards the best interest of the team, and probably in the best interest of this franchise would be to start rebuilding. Yeah. But so even though there may be that pressure from ownership, it is incumbent upon the general manager to navigate those waters.
I just don't think you realize how much Sidney Crosby is beloved in Pittsburgh. They were never, ever going to let this guy end his career on a rebuilding team. It was never going to happen.
But I think maybe to Ash's point, I think my point too, or, because I'm gonna give Dubas maybe a sprinkling of coal. Like maybe he doesn't get a fat lump of coal, but maybe he just kind of sprinkle it in at the bottom of his stocking here. Just kind of piggybacking off Ash's point is, yes, you have Crosby, yes, you have Malkin, yes, you have Letang, but you brought in Erik Karlsson, you brought in Riley Smith. Like there's still a way to navigate through it. And I'm not saying full rebuild, but why are you bringing in more aging players, to the roster that frankly was old last year too. And you saw it down the stretch. They ran out of gas when it came time to make the playoff push. So yeah, I think if he came in and was selling, Pittsburgh ownership, hey, we're going to win the Stanley Cup this year. I'm going to make this happen. Then that's a fat lump of coal right there. That's a fat lump of coal.
I don't even care if we're doing this in like March, April. I want to keep candy canes and coal as our new way of describing this segment.
John just wants to
change it to candy canes and Garrett Cole. I think that.
Well, that'll be our baseball edition in late March.
And moving right along here.
Yeah. All right. So next up we got Barry Trotz in Nashville, who's, like we've mentioned a number of times, they are really close to that five game win streak. So fingers crossed there. A bit of an interesting situation for Nashville in the offseason. Dave Pouillet, who was the longtime general manager in Nashville since '97, I believe, when the franchise first started. He is, I believe, the longest tenured GM in NHL history, and he made the decision to retire this offseason. And he decided to tap Barry Trotz on the shoulder and bring him in. And this would actually be Barry Trotz's first experience as a GM. A lot of hockey fans know him for his coaching experience, particularly in Nashville. He was actually the first head coach in Nashville. He had stints most recently in New York and in Washington, where he won the Cup in 2018. So new GM fires John Hines, which I know is not on here. Fires John Hines, brings in Andrew Burnett, and Nashville right now is in a wild card spot. So Ash, I'm going to turn to you first. What are we giving? Candy cane, or are we giving Cole to Barry?
It's interesting because at the start of the season there was a lot of talk about how long before Nashville starts trading pieces away to contenders, and they are actually playing really well. So I think that you have to give him a candy cane, because obviously he's done something right with this team. Won 4 in a row now, look to be in a playoff position right now. So I have to give all the candy canes to Barry Trotz.
All right. John, what are you thinking on Barry Trotz?
I'm not prepared to give him a full candy cane, but I'll give him like a Cadbury egg or something. Give him something sweet. I think he's done a good job. Maybe not could have used a little bit more depth in the defense position. Maybe a little bit more depth at the third and fourth line levels. But I mean, the acquisitions that you got on the screen, especially those top two with O'Reilly and Nyquist, have paid off dividends for Nashville early. Just watching Nashville play a couple times this year, this is a tough team to play against. They play with a lot of grit. They play with a lot of strength. I think they built a good identity. Like we said, they're going for the heat check. I think that he's done a good job, considering that there wasn't a ton of expectations about Nashville coming into the season. So Trotz, enjoy your Cadbury egg. You deserved it.
All right, Kyle, what do you got? What do you got for Trotz?
Yeah, I keep track of all the answers that people have, that you guys have for these. This is the most stressed I've ever been in my whole life. I don't know what's coming up.
Like Cadbury egg, huh?
It's usually
I would much rather have a Cadbury egg than a candy cane. So
I know that's a very
that
nice
to me was a bonus.
To each his own, you know.
Candy canes are more traditional Christmas candy.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what Nashville's been able to do with their roster to this point, being in a wild card spot. Since we're getting creative here, I'm gonna get Barry a little Lego set, because I feel like there are a couple little pieces, some depth scoring, maybe someone that you can pick up before the trade deadline that could really push this team into the playoffs this year.
Nice. Yeah, I dig it. You know, maybe I won't give him a full size candy cane. Maybe I'll give him one of the mini candy canes. I think the team has definitely exceeded expectations. I know before the season, I think even the first game of the season, there was, for me, I was expecting them to be towards the bottom of the Central, bottom of the West, kind of in Chicago territory. But they have really exceeded expectations. And like John said, I think the addition of Ryan O'Reilly, which I think really brought a lot of question marks to fans as well too. You know, again, you're kind of to the last point. It's are you going through a rebuild? Why bring in a veteran presence? But you know, sometimes that's good to give the young guys some guidance. And I'm sure he's helped out a lot. I will make one note about Ryan O'Reilly. I went to the game a couple weeks ago, and the PA went a little bit too long, like the music in the background, and he was getting ready for a face-off. He had to like circle back around like 2 times, and you could tell he was not happy. Like he wants to be there, he wants to play. So caps off to Trotz for bringing in a guy like that. Who's willing to play every night and give some guidance to a little bit of a younger roster.
All right. Well, moving right along here now, you've got somebody with the Flyers. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Yeah. No, I don't think we've really talked about the Flyers on this cast. I mean, this is our 4th week now. I think we were kind of debating first week to get them into discussion. They fell off a little bit, but they're 3rd right now in the Metro Division. They're 11th in the league in points. The question is, do you give the credit to Daniel Briere? And Briere's former player kind of joins that legion of former player GMs with Chris Jury, Bill Guerin, Rob Blake. It's been kind of in the wave for ownership and bringing in former player GMs. 696 career points. To my surprise, I found out today 112 playoff points from Daniel Briere. 6 seasons with the Philadelphia Flyers. Drafted all the way back in '96 by Phoenix, the Phoenix Coyotes, not the Arizona Coyotes of the Mullet Arena. Was brought in in 2021 as a special assistant to the GM for the Flyers, and took over in 2023 as the GM. Kyle, I'm gonna turn to you first, and I know this is a little sentimental for you because Briere was your favorite player growing up.
Absolutely, grew up defiantly a Flyers fan. I'll get to that story at some point here, but love Danny Briere. What do I want to give him? I mean, this team is overperforming at every level besides goals per game right now. I'm going to give him a candy cane. I do have something to add though about Mullet Arena. I heard a Canadian gentleman call it Moulet. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, yeah, I guess
that's what I'm calling it from now on.
I guess if you speak
Moulet.
French, yeah, if you speak French as your primary language, you would read it and be like, Moulet, okay. So there was that. That was just sitting on my brain.
Shops at Target.
Are we prepared to hear what I'm going to be giving Daniel Briere for Christmas?
But second in the Metro right now is incredible. Candy cane. Sorry, John, go ahead.
All right, so are we prepared to hear what I'm giving Daniel Briere for Christmas? I'll be giving Daniel Briere big full-size bag of Sour Patch Kids. Now, bear with me on this one. Reason being, he's getting the big-ass Sour Patch bag of Sour Patch Kids. Tripped over my words there. First, they're sour, then they're sweet. You look at Daniel Briere's offseason. None of these moves jump out as anything that's going to move a needle for the team.
What do you mean? Hold on. Garnett Hathaway is not doing it for you.
Garnett Hathaway and Mark Stahl are just not the pieces I see that get you over the hump to a playoff team. So, but listen, Philly went into this season objectively thinking they were going to tank. And where he went right and where he turns from sour to sweet, if you guys are tracking the metaphor, is the fact that he gave all of the young players on Philadelphia the roster spaces, the lineup chances, and the ability to flourish. And that's exactly what's happened for Philly. I mean, we've seen Travis Sanheim take the next step. We've seen Joel Farabee take the next step. We're seeing Bobby Brink and Tyson Forster and Cam York get significant minutes for these Flyers team and do a lot of great things with it. So when you look at his free agent moves in his offseason, it's sour. It looks like he's tanking. But the fact that they let these kids stay up there and do their thing, they've kind of tanked their way into a playoff spot. So enjoy your bag of Sour Patch Kids. Mine are the favorite are the red ones. The green ones are also pretty good.
They have Sour Patch Kid candy cane, so you could have given them a Sour Patch candy cane too.
No, those are just gross.
Well done, John. Ash, what are you giving Danny Briere?
I feel like this is a team that's kind of been flying under the radar. I feel like I don't hear anybody talking about this team, but second place in the Metropolitan Division. 37 points on the season, 7-1-2 in their last 10. I actually saw them play in Dallas earlier this year and saw them score 2 shorthanded goals. So it's been an interesting season for them. And I feel I mentioned this with regard to Nashville, as well as the team is playing. You got to give credit to the general manager, and so I got to give him a candy cane.
Yeah. No, I think I'm leaning towards candy cane. I know I try to stick to the rules of one or the other, no in between. But I don't know. I feel like you should be getting one of those kind of surprise eggs that you open up and there's a little gift in there. And not only because they've been a surprise, but I mean I feel like come trade deadline time they're gonna be cracking open that egg and finding a gift there. Someone who's going to maybe propel this team a little bit higher. So yeah, I think I'm leaning towards candy cane. But I think the jury is definitely still out for them. One final note on all this, and if you kind of look at goals against per game on all 3 teams, I mean, they're in the top half in the league for all 3 teams. And that's no credit to the current GM right now. So you think about the Flyers. You have Carter Hart. I know he had his struggles over the last couple of years, but he was highly projected as a prospect. UC Saros has been a mainstay with Nashville, and in Pittsburgh, Tristan Jarry as well has had his moment. So. Veteran goaltending has been is the common theme between these 3 teams. So these GMs really inherited some good goaltending as well.
And of course, Garnett Hathaway.
He brought in Garnett Hathaway, unlike some fantasy owners, who just brushed him aside.
One of the only members of the Garnett.
A lump of coal.
I gave a sprinkling. I gave a sprinkling to
a sprinkling of coal. Okay.
I gave a sprinkling of coal.
These are all to be reviewed later, Ash. I have all of them.
Yeah, he's got the receipts. At the end of the year, he's going to pull them out.
He's going to get to the end of the year and be like, "What the hell was John talking about with Sour Patch Kids?"
I'm bringing a bag of Sour Patch Kids to the review.
We're gonna have a tax season episode for sure. Gonna have an audit.
Well, and speaking of lumps of coal, our resident scout has been mining the coal all diligently the last few weeks, looking for that coal that's going to turn into the diamonds. And this week, we have a couple more prospects that Kyle wants to discuss here on the pod. And the first up, we are going to we're going to turn to is Henry Muse. And where are these guys from, Kyle, while I'm pulling this up?
Both of the guys I'm covering today play in the Ontario Hockey League. Henry Muse is a defenseman. He plays for the Ottawa 67s. He wears number 11. Right-handed defenseman, 6 foot tall, 185. He's 17 years old. And he was also born in Ottawa, which is where he plays his hockey now, which is really nice. If you could get that highlight in there, we could watch some film on him. I mean, he's unbelievable. I have him projected at 22, and it's only because of how strong the defensemen coming out of this draft are. Gardner. A lot of really good highlights for him. I think that this one is great. They're on the power play. The time is running down. He sets up his right-handed shot just outside the left dot and rips one top Chad. No chance. I mean, we see right wingers in the NHL take that shot. He's a right-sided defenseman. I mean, it's an NHL shot here.
Let's see it one more time here. I'll pull up the. All right.
And he goes short side too, which is really nice. I guess a little piece of information there. If you miss from the left side on the right, that puck is cleared off your stick. If you shoot near side, it's going off the glass, and it still maintains possession for your team. Saw a lot of him shooting near side, which is good. Some strengths for him. You guys can see his point production in the bottom right. He's projected this year having 25 points already to end up with 63. He has 4 goals and 21 assists through 26 games this year. His playmaking, his mobility, he's fast. He seems to be playing the game much faster, and you see these round one guys. It's incredible how much faster they are and how much more quickly their brains move than the other guys on the ice for obvious reasons. They are going in the first round. And something that I also read up on Henry Muse is his ability to be coached. It came in as a question mark whether he was going to play offense or defense. He wasn't really sure which way to go. And it seems like the coaching staff there in Ottawa has decided to put him on the defensive side. And he's worked really well. There are a lot of quotes out there saying just how bright he is, how eager he is to learn. And I think he'll be a gift for whoever drafts him. Some question marks, and I'm sorry for the folks that tune in every week. I'm going to add it again. There are no weaknesses for 17-year-old kids. There are only question marks at this point. These guys are all fantastic hockey players. Question marks for him: 6 foot, 185. You have to say the physicality. Is he gonna bring the physical edge every night? Puck management, as we see with a lot of these younger high prospects, they're trying to make the highlight reel play. And it's something that their team requires on a nightly basis. So him managing the puck is take it with a grain of salt. And his defensive focus is something that he's still working on in his game, because he came in with, am I going to play offense? Am I going to play defense? My comp is Erik Karlsson, and as a highly skilled right-handed offensive defenseman, he has the playmaking skills and creativity that's similar to our Norris Trophy winner, Erik Karlsson, and Muse is developing that same reputation that Erik Karlsson has for weak defensive play, but plays in Ottawa, where their entire focus is defensive based on everything that I read. But if he's given the ability to be creative, I think he'll really develop those skills over the next couple of years and be a great great addition into any team's lineup. Luke, I have him projected at 22. Again, only because of how strong all the defensive players are. But with that information, who do you have him going to?
Right-handed shot at the top of the. I'm looking at the highlight too, and I probably already said this team before, but I'm thinking the Washington Capitals here.
Oh, that's where I was going
to.
You could have multiple same answers.
Yeah. I think the rationale is, Capitals are kind of sitting around that spot right now. I know they're 21st in point percentage. I know how the playoffs shake out. It doesn't always work out that way. They'll end up with the 22nd pick. But you look at the defensive core. You look at Ovechkin. They're going to need someone. They're going to need someone on that power play to take that shot somewhere down the road, right? And I think he's probably still has time to develop. Other team I'm thinking is someone like Arizona who's pushing for a playoff spot right now, possibly a first round knockout. I'm sure they could definitely use a right-handed offensive defenseman to help them out.
If he works on these question marks and really develops them over the next couple of years, you think he'll become a Henry Mewtwo's? There's my Pokemon reference.
Pokemon joke. There you
go. For me, my first thought was Florida. I think that's going to be my guess for the upcoming draft. I'm excited to see how our results pan out in June. But this is a team. Florida obviously made the Cup run last year, and I know all these guys that you're talking about, Kyle, minus those couple that are right at the very top of the draft, are years away from making an impact on their squads. But if you look at the Florida defensive corps, Ekblad's been battling injuries for years. You got Montour heading toward 30, Ekman-Larsson already in his 30s, and then it's filled out with kind of veteran guys, Niko Mikkola, Dmitry Kulikov. This is a team that could use a little bit of turnover in the defensive corps over the next couple of years. So I definitely see a guy like this making an impact with some of their best defensemen, probably getting ready to be on their way out by then.
Yeah, and I was thinking Washington too, just because of the, they've got guys like Ovechkin kind of getting up there in age and that kind of thing. So they might need a young scoring type guy to come in the next few years. So, and they're kind of in that spot in the picking order at this time too. So it looked like that might be a team that might be able to take him without reaching too high and that kind of thing. So what'd you think, Kyle?
Oh, I don't usually guess on these.
Well, I was putting you on the spot here.
Kyle's the keeper of the guesses. He's not the one that actually makes the guesses.
I got enough things to worry about.
He's too busy trying to figure out which Finnish middle school to go to next week.
Well, moving right along.
I'm going out to Russia, man.
Moving right along, we've got Beckett Seneca as our next prospect up, and I'll pull up the little highlight clip here so Kyle can break it down.
Yeah, this Beckett Seneca. There's actually 2 goals that are involved in this particular replay, and if you guys look at the clock, both of them are scored within 28 seconds of each other. This young man is dominant, and it's all around the front of the net, the dirty areas. The places a lot of these young guys are afraid to go to. He goes right to the front of the net on that second one. Deke's backhand, 2 defenders on his backhand side, and tucks it in forehand. Goalie's swimming, looking for anything. The shot's a good one for the second goal. Just at the left dot, right-handed shot. Love to see guys taking shots at this point in their career.
They got Paw Patrol on their jerseys. You notice that?
No, I didn't.
I was trying to figure out what's happening with those.
I was like, those jerseys are kind of cool looking. I'm trying to figure it, and then I noticed it's Paw Patrol. Because I was looking at his celly. I was like, classic set. He's got the celly down. He's got the celly down. But with the Paw Patrol jerseys, I mean, that's something.
We found Luke's new favorite prospect.
You gotta love those Junior League jerseys.
Their names are in a outline of a bone on the back of the jerseys too.
Hats off. What teams
that had to have been a Paw Patrol night, like a kids' night or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
the Winterhawks played before their Christmas break. They played in Christmas sweater themed jerseys, which hopefully they never go back to because they played their poorest performance of the year in those jerseys. So let's toss those kits. But yeah, Beckett Seneca, forward for the Oshawa Generals. Where's number 45? Notable alum, John Tavares played in Oshawa. So a lot of comparisons go to him and the stats that he's been accruing there in Oshawa. He's 6'2", 17 years old, 181 pounds. Strengths, as you guys can see, he gets the front of the net. He's 6'2". He's got the long range. He gets in there, and he's got the mitts to finish. Like stick handling wise, it was really hard for me to pick a highlight video or put up a 20-minute montage of his highlight reel because he really, really plays with a ton of confidence. And the young man is just putting up crazy points. This year, 26 games, 8 goals, 16 assists in 26 games. So 24 total points, projected at 60. He gets in on the forecheck, uses his body from what I've read. Gets in, uses his body, uses his stick, interrupts a lot of defensive play, which you love to see at that level. Question marks for him. He plays like a power forward. He's going to have to bulk up to be in the league. Everybody's got to bulk up. The back check, he kind of gets lost in based on what I've read. And the last question mark is that his teammate, Callum Ritchie, has been injured, but he's coming back, and you can only imagine what those points are going to look like when the best player on the team returns and is playing on the same line. So comparison for him, John, I think you're going to love this one.
Already do.
John's favorite
would be Chris Kreider. He has that combination of hand size, will to get to the puck, and his dexterity, especially around the net. That's comparable to Kreider. He uses his body effectively when he gets into the zone to evade those poke checks and body checks along the boards, which we see from Kreider all the time. He always gets to the front of the net, and I could definitely imagine in the right system, I could imagine him parking it in front of the net like Kreider does on the power play for years to come. So that's Beckett Seneca. I have him going at number 25 in the first round. John,
yeah,
who needs him? Who wants him?
It's kind of funny that you compared him to Kreider because as you were showing the highlights, I really was thinking he's a Ranger fit in a lot of different levels. Unfortunately, he will have to last down to the 32nd pick in order to make that work. But I definitely see him being a fit for the Rangers for all the reasons you listed. I mean, listen, Kreider's not a young man. He's going to be out soon enough. He's only got a few years left on his contract. He's in the wrong side of 30. Why not draft a Chris Kreider replacement? The Rangers power play has worked for years with just a guy parking in front of the net. And also, general manager Chris Drury has really shown to be a little bit more interested in drafting skill over the last couple of years. We saw it with the first round pick last year in Gabe Perreault. So I just think it makes a lot of sense for the Rangers, especially considering he's going to go toward the end of the draft, which is where the Rangers are slated to pick right now. So I'd be pretty hyped to have this guy on my squad.
Luke?
I usually go two teams. Lock me in for the Dallas Stars right now.
Yeah, fits in that system.
You said Chris Kreider. My first thought was Jamie Benn, and man, that roster is a little aging. Jamie Benn, Dadonov, Duchesne, Pavelski. They're gonna, they do have some younger guys in Robertson and Hintz, but they're gonna need a next generation of guys. And I mean, that was my first thought. It's power forward right in the Dallas system.
A team that loves forecheck too. Slows the game down a lot.
Oh yeah.
Ash, who you got?
I was looking at Boston, and Boston is not a team that I haven't watched a single Boston game all year, so I'm not super familiar with them. But I'm looking at Money Puck, and they are 22nd in the NHL in expected goals for. So it seems like to me that even though they've been winning a lot of games and have been toward the top of the standings, that they could probably use some more scoring. So a guy like this, he was pretty impressive there. They're scoring those goals. So looks like somebody that could fit in with that squad. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's a good fit too. Kind of similar reasons with Dallas. A little bit of an aging roster there as well. They had two guys age out, or was it one or two? Krejci and who also left, or was it just Krejci? Can't remember. Anyway,
for Boston.
Yeah, for Boston.
This past year.
This past season. Well, I know they brought back Lucic, but that didn't pan out.
You had Bergeron retire too.
Bergeron. That was the other one. I couldn't think of Bergeron. So Krejci and Bergeron out. I think Boston's a good fit too.
Just want to say, great job as always, Kyle. Love the prospect segment. As much as I love hockey, I still feel like I'm learning a ton from these. So really cool to see a lot of these guys for the first time.
Sitting under the learning tree.
Are these guys above or below Fries? Because I know Fries was number one for you.
Oh boy, Mewtwo might be able to take it over Fries, but it's close. It's close.
It's tough. Mewtwo, Paw Patrol, Fries,
Paw Patrol.
It also has really got me going.
Yeah. 5 years from now, we're still going to be calling him Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol, and he's going to be watching, and because he wants to know the heat check, and he wants to know the power rank.
He'll be our second NHL
player. He'll
be our second ever NHL player on the podcast after we eventually get William Eklund on the podcast.
Well, yeah, no, he's going to be watching to find out whether or not we get William Eklund on the cast, because everybody's watching for that as well.
Love it.
Well, it was a great. I really enjoyed listening to the prospects and learning about some of those guys and what we might see in the future. Just before we close tonight, it's been a great episode. Appreciate everybody watching us today. Make sure if this is the first time tuning in, you hit that like button and subscribe button so that way you catch us in the future. Before we close out of here tonight, any final words from you guys? I'll give mine first before we go off of here. I just wanted to give a shout out to Adam Henrique for the hat trick last night, the first one of his career. So that was pretty cool to see. Turn it over to you, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't have the stats right in front of me. I just wanted to address what was underneath my name. Showtime Patrick Kane with Detroit has not panned out to this point. I think he's playing at a -7 right now. Again, don't quote me. Kind of a bummer for me to close out on, but I just wanted to address that and hope that they can turn it around and he can start to produce for them. It might just be he's still trying to learn how to work with his line mates there. John, what you got?
Oh no, we're closing on my thought. Luke, you go next.
Maybe a little bit of redemption for me this week. We'll do the Sharks 2 weeks in a row. David Quinn, who's the head coach of the San Jose Sharks. Bit of a tough spot for him Friday night, losing 2 video reviews to Arizona in Moulet Arena. Moulet Arena loses 2.
Get a stick.
One was on the offsides. Another was on our boy William Eklund, which I think was a really weak goaltender interference, but they checked in Toronto. So 2 goals taken off the board, and that's the loss right there. I mean, they only let up 1 goal against Arizona. 2 goals called back. That was a difference right there. But Ashley said it 2 weeks ago. I mean, San Jose is playing a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. So shout out to David Quinn, and always a shout out to William Eklund. John, what do you got? You got big one here.
My closing thought: Christopher James Kreider. A shout out to Chris Kreider, who on Saturday reached not 1, not 2, but 3 separate milestones in that game, reaching his 500th career point, his 100th career power play point, and passing Adam Graves for 3rd on the all-time Ranger list. A really, really solid, great career for Chris Kreider as a Ranger. And mark my words, Stanley Cup or no Stanley Cup, number 20 will be in the rafters of Madison Square Garden when he eventually puts those skates up.
Wow. That's big. That's
nice.
Big. That's big. I know, I love Kreider, and, there are some people in this cast who did not have a lot of love for Kreider a couple years ago. But he has really excelled the last couple seasons. And I think I was maybe on the bandwagon in 2020 when they extended him that, they should be moving him at the deadline. But I think he's just gotten better with age. And I think he's just been a really great fit on that power play.
Oh, yeah.
Who on the cast didn't like Kreider?
That was me. There were some gaps in his game that he definitely filled in, and any reasonable person would not disagree with me on that. And yeah, the hand-eye on the power play has been just amazing to watch, and
yeah,
now I'm hoping they extend him.
All right. Well, it's been a great show tonight, guys. For those of you watching, we are off the next 2 Mondays because of the holidays. Obviously, next Monday being Christmas, and then the following Monday is New Year's Day. So happy holidays, everybody. Thank you for watching. And again, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and to follow us on Facebook at BDS Hockey Pod. So thank you again.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, guys.